You are always on my mind. You are always on my mind.
There are moments in life when a single step becomes bigger than a journey. A moment when a person walks forward, not knowing that the next few minutes might change everything, their future, their faith, and their place in the world. And on this night, inside the glowing arena of America's Got Talent, one quiet question floated in the air like a fragile whisper. What happens when a man who has lost almost everything finally gets one chance to rise? The audience didn't know his name yet. The judges didn't know his story. But from the dark entrance tunnel, Rico Navarro walked out with the slow, steady steps of someone carrying both hope and fear inside his chest. The lights above him shimmered like tiny stars. The stage stretched wide and bright, almost too grand for a man who once sang on street corners for tips. His jacket, inspired by Elvis, sparkled under the spotlights, but it was old, worn out at the edges, and carried the scent of long journeys and sleepless nights. Behind his nervous smile lived 1,000 memories. Some were beautiful, like the afternoons in Cebu when his father would play Elvis tapes while his mother cooked rice, her laughter filling the small house like music. But some memories were heavy, nights spent in cheap rooms after performing in bars where no one looked at him, early mornings when he counted his last coins, moments when he wondered if dreams were only meant for other people. Somewhere across the ocean, his mother Luz was praying for him. Her hands, tired from years of sewing clothes for neighbors, trembled as she whispered blessings into the night. She believed in him long before he believed in himself. By his side today was Marco, his childhood friend, loyal, quiet, carrying a strength that Rico leaned on without saying a word. Marco knew the secrets no one else knew, the fears Rico hid behind jokes, the heartbreak he buried beneath laughter. As Rico stepped into the center of the stage, the world seemed to pause. Every light focused on him. Every sound faded. And the question grew louder inside him. What if this moment could change everything? What if, for the first time, life was finally ready to give him a chance? Long before the lights of AGT touched his face, Rico Navarro belonged to a world far simpler than this grand stage. He grew up in a small wooden house in Cebu, where the sound of chickens outside mixed with the ocean wind and the steady hum of his father's old radio. On weekends, his father would play Elvis Presley songs on an old cassette player. Those melodies floated through the open windows, drifting into the coconut trees outside, and filling their home with a kind of magic that only music can bring. Rico, still a skinny boy with messy hair, would stand in front of the mirror pretending to hold a microphone. His father would laugh, proud and amused, while his mother clapped softly as she cooked. Those moments shaped him. They were the beginning of a dream he didn't even know he was building. But life has a way of changing without warning. His father passed suddenly from an illness no one expected. The laughter disappeared. The cassette player gathered dust. And Rico's world grew quieter, heavier, older. He watched his mother work long hours sewing clothes, her tired eyes hiding her pain, her smile still soft but no longer whole. As Rico grew older, he tried to carry the weight his father left behind. He worked on construction sites under the sun, lifting heavy cement bags until his hands burned. At night, he sang at small bars, where people were too busy drinking to notice the emotion in his voice. Yet he kept singing, not for the money, but because singing was the only thing that made him feel alive. His best friend Marco stayed by his side through every struggle. He was the quiet type, the kind of friend who didn't say much but behind his nervous smile lived 1,000 memories. Some were beautiful, like the afternoons in Cebu when his father would play Elvis tapes while his mother cooked rice, her laughter filling the small house like music. But some memories were heavy, nights spent in cheap rooms after performing in bars where no one looked at him, early mornings when he counted his last coins, moments when he wondered if dreams were only meant for other people. Somewhere across the ocean, his mother Luz was praying for him. Her hands, tired from years of sewing clothes for neighbors, trembled as she whispered blessings into the night. She believed in him long before he believed in himself. By his side today was Marco, his childhood friend, loyal, quiet, carrying a strength that Rico leaned on without saying a word. Marco knew the secrets no one else knew, the fears Rico hid behind jokes, the heartbreak he buried beneath laughter. As Rico stepped into the center of the stage, the world seemed to pause. Every light focused on him. Every sound faded. And the question grew louder inside him. What if this moment could change everything? What if, for the first time, life was finally ready to give him a chance? He didn't know the answer. But he walked forward anyway. Because some dreams are worth risking everything for. The moment had finally arrived, the moment Rico had imagined so many nights while staring at the cracked ceiling of his tiny rented room. As he stepped into the center of the AGT stage, the floor beneath him felt both solid and fragile, like a place where dreams were made, and sometimes broken. The lights dimmed slightly. The crowd grew quiet. Somewhere backstage, Marco clasped his hands tightly, praying in silence. Rico closed his eyes for a brief second, long enough to gather strength, but short enough to hide the fear rising in his chest. When the first strum of the guitar played through the speakers, it felt like the world had opened a small door for him. He breathed in deeply. Then his voice rose. It wasn't loud. It wasn't powerful. Not yet. But it was honest, a soft, trembling sound that carried the weight of someone who had lived through storms and still dared to sing. For 10 seconds, everything felt peaceful. 10 seconds where his voice floated like a warm breeze through the arena. 10 seconds where he believed, even if just for a moment, that he belonged here. And then it happened. A hand went up. Simon's hand. The music stopped abruptly, slicing through the air like a blade. The audience gasped. A sudden silence fell, the kind that makes the heart race and the knees weaken. Rico's breath caught in his throat. His fingers curled slightly, trembling. His heart pounded like it wanted to escape his chest. He wondered if this was it, if another dream was about to slip away, just like the auditions he had lost before. Memories flashed in his mind, his mother's tired smile, Marco's quiet support, his father's old cassette player. All the love, all the struggle, all the years of holding on, now hanging by a fragile thread. Simon stared at him with an unreadable expression, not cold, not harsh, but intense. The kind of look that could mean anything. The crowd shifted nervously. Some whispered. Some leaned forward. Everyone waited. But Rico did not leave the stage. He did not crumble. He stood still, wounded but unbroken, scared but determined. A man who had survived too much to surrender now. He drew a slow breath, steadying himself from the inside out. Because sometimes, life stops you not to break you, but to see if you're ready to rise again. And in that heavy silence, something powerful began to change. The silence after Simon's interruption felt endless, a long, suspended moment where Rico stood alone beneath the blinding lights, holding on to the last pieces of courage he had left. For a heartbeat, he wondered if he should apologize, step back, or simply walk away before the disappointment swallowed him whole. But then the music restarted. It came softly, like a gentle breeze returning after a storm. The first chords of the song drifted across the stage, warm and familiar, carrying with them a reminder of why he started singing in the first place. Rico lifted his head. And something inside him shifted. This time, when he opened his mouth, his voice rose not out of fear, but out of truth. It was raw, full, and trembling with years of unspoken stories. There was a quiet pain in every note, a longing in every breath. His voice wasn't perfect, it cracked once, maybe twice, but those cracks were beautiful. They revealed the human behind the performance. The crowd leaned forward, as if drawn by something invisible. His voice carried the echo of Elvis, the warmth, the grit, the soul, but it also carried something uniquely Filipino, a softness shaped by struggle, a tenderness born from family, a depth that came from surviving so much yet still choosing hope. Each line he sang felt like a message to someone he loved. To his mother, who waited at home with unwavering faith. To his father, whose memory lived inside every song he sang. To Marco, who believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. The judges shifted in their seats. Their eyes softened. The arena, filled with thousands of people, felt strangely intimate, like a small room where one man shared his heart without saying a single word. Backstage, Marco bit his lip, trying to hide the tears gathering in his eyes. He knew this wasn't just a performance. This was a release, a lifetime of emotions finally finding a voice. As the music swelled, Rico gave everything he had, every memory, every fear, every dream, pouring it all into the final notes. By the time he reached the end, the air felt different. Lighter. Fuller. Changed. Rico lowered his head, chest rising and falling, as if the song had freed a part of him he had been holding back for years. And for the first time that night, the world truly saw him. For a moment after the final note faded, there was no sound at all. Just a deep, powerful silence, the kind that follows something extraordinary. Rico stood there with his head lowered, his breath uneven, his heart trembling from the weight he had finally let go. And then, a single clap echoed through the arena. Followed by another. And another. Within seconds, the entire room rose to its feet. Thousands stood, cheering, applauding, shouting his name even though they had only heard it minutes ago. The lights above him glowed brighter, as if celebrating him, turning the stage into a place where something magical had just happened. Rico lifted his head slowly, almost afraid to believe what he was seeing. People were crying. People were smiling. People were moved in ways even he couldn't understand. This wasn't just applause. This was acceptance. This was belonging. This was the moment he had been chasing his entire life without knowing it. The judges sat stunned. Even the harsh lines on Simon's face softened into something rare, a look of quiet respect, almost pride. It wasn't the reaction of someone who had expected greatness. It was the reaction of someone who had been caught off guard and transformed by what he witnessed. Rico's chest tightened. Not from fear, but from gratitude. He thought of his mother, watching from a small wooden house across the ocean, probably holding a pillow to her chest as tears streamed down her cheeks. He thought of his father, whose old Elvis tapes had once filled their home with dreams. And he thought of Marco, watching from backstage, his eyes shining with the unspoken joy of someone who had believed all along. This moment wasn't loud for Rico. It wasn't wild. It was gentle, a soft realization settling deep inside his heart. He had walked onto the stage as a simple man with a borrowed jacket and a fragile dream. He was walking off as something else entirely, a reminder to the world that talent doesn't come from fame or perfection, it comes from the courage to stand up after every fall. The judges called it the surprise of the season. But for Rico, it was something more. It was proof that dreams don't die. They wait, patiently, for the moment you're brave enough to chase them again. And tonight, he was finally ready.